Which is our Reimagine Nation agency, reimagining the New York economy. How do we reopen better than ever before? To my immediate right, Kelly Cummings, Director of Operations, who gets things done for the state of New York. To my left, Mr. Alan Steele, who runs the Jacob Javits Convention Center. That was his job. It morphed over time to running a COVID site, the largest in the United States of America. You don't expect that to happen when you sign up for a position to run a convention center, but that's what we needed the convention center to do, and that's what Alan and his team did. Brilliantly, I might add. Let's talk about where we are today, because it's exciting. We are physically in the Jacob Javits Convention Center, which was a great vision by the state of New York. It was one of the projects that was done to bring the economy back as an economic magnet for New York State. It did that very well for a long time. But convention centers, like everything else, evolve, they grow, and we therefore had to reimagine the Javits Center. But Javits morphed, and Javits in many ways became ground zero for COVID. My frankly most frightening memories about COVID all happened right here at the Javits Center, when we found out that we had been ambushed by COVID and that it had been coming here, landing on planes at our airports from Europe, and had been coming for months before we ever knew. When we found out, it was too late. We're at 48% positivity, highest in the country. Some say highest on the globe at that time. And Javits became the largest field hospital in the country. Nobody saw it at that time, but it was frightening to be here. 2,500 cots, little sleeping attendant areas, National Guard here, federal military here, jeeps, all sorts of military equipment. It looked like the scene from a movie on post-apocalyptic America. But it was set up to be the largest field hospital in the country. Now it's the highest throughput vaccination center in the country. So it has seen both ends of the spectrum. And talk about a 180-degree development. New York State had the highest positivity in the nation. Today, New York State has the lowest positivity of any state in the United States of America. Let's give New Yorkers a round of applause. This is the 7-day positivity, the weekly positivity. We do daily positivity. We also do weekly positivity numbers. New York, for the past week, 0.64%. Massachusetts 0.68, Vermont 0.79, and that will bounce around from time to time with these numbers, but it is extraordinary for New York to understand what New Yorkers have accomplished. And not only did we bring the number down initially, we have kept the number down to this day. And that's what this chart points to. If you had told us a year ago when we were walking through this facility, don't worry, you're going to turn it around and New York is going to wind up with the lowest positivity, I wouldn't have believed you, because New York was in such a unique, precarious position. But the people of New York did it. No one else. It was their behavior, it was their sense of community, it was their unity that actually turned everything around. Today, 0.61, the ICU rate is down, the intubation rate is down. Is COVID over? No. 11 people still died from COVID, and they're in our thoughts and prayers. Again, the number varies from community to community because it depends on that community's behavior. Are they getting vaccines? Are they social distancing? Finger Lakes is the highest in the state at 1.4. You go down to 0.56, 0.50, but you see the variance across the state. In New York City, you see the variance, Staten Island at 0.7, Manhattan 0.35. It's always been extraordinary how low Manhattan is. Manhattan has been the lowest positivity in the city for many weeks, and it's hard to explain why. Manhattan probably is the highest density, but it's something that we're studying for the future. You see the 0.64 is 58 straight days of decline. Vaccinations, we're at 19 million, 65% at least one dose. That's very good news. And we have a very high percentage of people who come back for the second dose. The conversion rate from first dose to second dose is about 97, 98%. So that's good news. 57% fully vaccinated. So we're making incredible progress. We have a lot to be proud of, but we have more to do. Priority remains get shots in arms. Focus for us now, 12 to 17-year-olds, at 9% of the population. Why are they so low? Because first, they weren't eligible for the vaccine until fairly recently. All our messaging has been young people don't need to worry about it. It's the older people who should be really concerned. But that's changed. Federal government now made the vaccine eligible for 12 to 17-year-olds, and we're working very hard to get them interested in taking the vaccine. It's smart, it's right, there's very little risk. So we're focusing on that population. One of the things we did, because the vaccination rate overall is dropping, so we have incentives for people to get vaccinated. And we offered a great incentive for people who are between 12 to 17. Come and get a vaccination, which you should do anyway, and you will be eligible for a raffle. The winners get a full 4-year scholarship to a state college or university. Full 4-year scholarship. 10 winners per week, and it runs through July 7th. Since we announced that, 45,000 young people have come up and gotten a vaccine. Today, we announced the first 10 winners, and here you see them. They're located all across the state, obviously. We have a number in New York City, but it's from Victor, New York, Bronx, Bayside, Albany, Chazy, Westbury, Penfield, Westchester, Syracuse, Queens. Congratulations to them. They just won a full 4-year scholarship, room and board, to any state college or university. That's the SUNY system, that's the CUNY system here in New York. This is about a $100,000 value, this scholarship. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to their parents, as a parent, because funding college is a nightmare for families all across America. And for the students, it's great, but for the parents, it's also great that they know this is something they're not going to have to worry about. So congratulations to all of them. Remember, this goes through July 7th. Get your vaccine, be eligible for the raffle. The raffle is the cherry on the cake as far as I'm concerned. It's something smart that you should do anyway. In general, we celebrated Memorial Day, and it is time to get back to living. Living. What have we been doing for the past year? We've been surviving for the past year. We've been afraid of COVID. I don't want to catch COVID. I could die from COVID. Wear a mask. Stay home. We've been surviving. Surviving is not living. Surviving is not thriving. Life is about more than just survival. But that's the mode that we have been in for the past year. We just wanted to survive, just to live, to protect our life and protect the life of our family members. We're on a new day now. It's time to start living again. Get out of the house. Start to see loved ones again. Socialize again. Participate in activities. We said follow the science. The science says it is now safe because the vaccine was always the weapon that was going to win the war, and the weapon is now hitting critical mass, and that's why you see the numbers coming down. So get a vaccine, go out and enjoy life. And I think we're going to see a tremendous burst of energy. You have an unprecedented period of time. You'd have to go back to a past pandemic to come up with another situation where you had a city, a state, a country, a world on lockdown for 1 year. And it altered every social interaction, altered life for young people, old people, everyone in between. It's over. And you're going to see a tremendous outburst of energy, people wanting to get back to life, back to socialization, back to enjoying what life is all about. The vaccine helps you do that. You're going to see venues opening up with a preference for vaccinated people. Radio City, I think, made one of the smartest moves early on. Radio City said we're reopening 100% vaccinated. Why? Are they trying to promote the vaccine policy? No, they're not in the vaccine policy business. I believe they believe the vaccine is smart, but from a venue's point of view, they want to maximize attendance. If you have vaccinated people come into the venue, there's two things. Number one, it helps you sell tickets. Because when you can tell everyone, don't worry, the person you're sitting next to is going to be vaccinated. So you know they're not carrying the virus. Secondly, by the reopening rules, if you're vaccinated, you can seat people one next to another. If people are not vaccinated, you have to socially distance. You have to leave seats in between. That reduces the capacity for the venue. The venue wants a full venue. They want the revenue from a full venue. The entertainer wants a full venue. The sports team wants a full venue. So you will see more and more venues moving to more and more vaccinations. The vaccination card that you get, this opens doors and allows you to participate in life in a way you are going to want to do. You're going to want to go to Radio City Music Hall. The Mets are announcing that at their home games, 90% of the seats will go to vaccinated people. 90%. Why? Because they want a full crowd. Because the players want a full crowd. So they're going to 90% vaccinated, 10% seats for unvaccinated. You will see other sports teams doing that. You will see movie theaters starting to do that. You will see restaurants starting to do that, because it is a safer environment and it's more conducive to business. It also allows more business sales. So it's another reason to get the vaccine. You have your own safety. You have the safety of people who you may infect if you're not vaccinated. The safety of your family. You then have the incentives now to get a vaccine. And you have another incentive, which is it's a passport to allow you to start to enjoy life once again and get into these venues. Our goal is to have New York State as the reopening and reimagining capital of the world. Meaning, on the reopening, you are going to see a surge of consumer activity and a surge of social activity. We want it to happen here. We want to capitalize on this moment. Reimagining capital, that we don't want to just reimagine, we don't want to just reopen society, reopen to where we were a year ago. No. Life is not about going backwards, it's about going forwards. We want to reimagine and open up better and different and stronger than ever before. Javits is a metaphor for that once again. Went from ground zero to now reopening as a reimagined facility. It's 50% larger, 1.2 million square foot expansion completed during COVID. So the day before COVID to today, Javits is 50% larger. It's opening bigger, better, stronger than ever before. And it's reopening with one of the premier events in this country, which is the New York International Auto Show. And I want to thank Mark Scheinberg, who represents the New York State auto dealers, for working with us. The International Auto Show is going to be August 20th to 29th. Tickets go on sale June 30th. The goal is 1 million visitors to the Javits Center over 9 days. 1 million visitors is the high number that we've had in the past, but we believe it's achievable because now Javits is even bigger than it was in the past. And this message of New York reopen and New York safe and New York reimagined, we want to broadcast this all across the world. We want people coming to New York, and we want people to know they are welcome, and we want them to come make us the venue for their re-entry into living and thriving and enjoying once again. Our message is to domestic and international tourists, this is the place you want to visit. This is the one state where whatever you want to do, you can do it in this great state of New York. To people who live within the state, to New Yorkers, you're planning your summer vacation? Forget traveling, forget getting on a plane, going to Europe where you still have COVID infection rates that are much higher than the United States. Stay in New York. This state has anything you could possibly want to do, and staying in New York and vacationing in New York is smart and it is safe. You know this state is responsible when it comes to handling COVID. So if you want a vacation and you don't want to have to worry about COVID, vacation in the state of New York. Downstate New York, New York City, you think of New York City as New York. Upstate, they think of upstate as New York. You put the two together. Upstate New York has the most beautiful rural areas. It has the Adirondacks, it has the Finger Lakes, it has wineries, You can bike, you can fish, you can hike as well as you can anywhere else in the United States. You can go to Long Island that has beaches and vineyards that are remarkable and rival anything anywhere on the globe. And then, yes, of course, you have New York City, which is the cultural capital of the world. We're reopening the museums that people have missed for the past year, the greatest restaurants and the greatest diversity on the globe, the greatest history and history in this city that tells the tale of the nation, literally, as well as sports, that is, sports teams that are reopening and that are doing great. The Islanders are doing fantastic. The Knicks, big game tonight. Go Knicks. The Nets are doing great. The Islanders are doing great. And tourism is also a big business for our bottom line. 2019, it was $265 million visitors. 73 billion in direct revenue, 117 total economic impact. So our message is simple. It's time to re-enter society. It's time to reopen. It's time to reimagine. There's no place better to do that than the state of New York. We want any tourists this year considering a vacation, put New York at the top of the list because we want you here. To New Yorkers who are considering a vacation, there is no reason to go anywhere else. You have it right in your own backyard. We are going to advertise this message with our I Love New York campaign. We're starting an international ad campaign for tourism. New York is back, and New York is the best, and we want people to be part of it. Our Phase 1 advertising plan is $5 million. It's being run by ESD, and you will see a sample of the downstate ad that is going to run.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I wanna be a part of it. New York, New York. It's up to you. New York, New York, New York.
Beautiful. I'm sold. Questions?
Video of the woman who was attacked on the street in Chinatown. We've had a series of incidents where there have kind of been random attacks. I'm curious if you think that the bail law needs to be revisited in any way. Should there be, for example, a dangerous standard? This individual who was arrested had several arrests over the last few months.
You know, I think it is, crime in New York City is a major problem. I have said repeatedly, as you know, we're talking about reopening, reimagining, getting people to come back to New York, back to offices, etc. We have all sorts of incentives in economic development. The number one economic development priority is public safety. We can do everything we're doing, new Moynihan train hall, new Penn Station, tourism ads. People have to feel safe. And crime is a major problem in New York City. I don't believe, Zach, there's any one causality. I think the fundamental issue is a relationship issue between the police and the community. Members of the community, the police are frustrated. The police will say that they can't do their job in this environment. Members of the community will say they have issues with trust with the police, and that is the relationship you have to resolve. We're in the middle of mayoral discussions. As a Queens boy who proudly holds on to his accent, my question for every mayoral candidate, if I were a New York City voter, what are you going to do about crime? Specifically, Not, yes, it's a problem, we have to address it. Tell me what you would do. How many police would you put in the subways? Do you believe we need more police on the subways? At one time we had a NYPD person on every train in the system. Would you do that again? How do you restore the trust? Do you hire more police? Do you have fewer police? How would you reform the police department? And how would you restore the relationship where the police feel empowered to do their job and that they can do their job without being attacked? Now, if there are additional suggestions where you need state alterations or modifications, tell me. If New York City said, look, we think the bail law is a problem, that would obviously be a major discussion. If they said the disclosure laws are a problem, or the enforcement laws, or the discipline laws are a problem, you know, I'm open to doing whatever we need to do to facilitate New York City's addressing the crime problem. But New York City has to address the crime problem. You know, it is a city responsibility. Cities, safety, sanitation. I was HUD's secretary, and the mayors were my main clients and constituents of HUD. And I did all the mayors' conferences for 8 years. Prime responsibility for a mayor, safety, you run the police, sanitation, a clean city. Safe city and a clean city. Safe city and a clean city. Those are the two fundamentals, right? Fiorello LaGuardia. Everything else, state has involvement. New York City also has education subject to state regulation, but police and sanitation. Keep the city safe, keep the city clean. Homelessness fits in with quality of life, but I think that's the discussion for every mayoral candidate, Zach. And then if they say, we've looked at the numbers, the bail laws are an issue, then tell us how and what. There is no assemblyman or there is no senator who would say, well, we're not going to have a discussion about the bail laws if you believe and have evidence that they are a causation of crime. Of course that's a conversation you would have.
Reform. You know, there's one bill that would put people back out at age 55 if they've already served 15 years. Some believe, the DAs in particular who are against this, that that's just going to further the problem. It's going to be more people on the street who maybe don't belong on the street.
Well, it depends on what the proposal is. Obviously, the devil's always in the details. But again, it's the same point. Then have the discussion. Then let a New York City mayoral candidate say, this is what I think about bail reform, this is what I think about parole reform, this is what I think about a release of disciplinary records of police officers, these are the changes we want to make, and we want to facilitate that, right? We want a safe New York City, and this is a major problem, and it has been for years. This is not today. We've been talking about this for months. George Floyd was an inflection point nationwide, but there's been a growing tension for years. This is 4, 5, 6, 7 years. The police officers will tell you, and the community members will tell you. And it's not a simple one fix cure-all. And that's why I think it should be a major topic of the mayoral debate. I would have a debate just on crime, to drill down into the specifics, because there are no conceptual answers to these problems. And too much of the political dialogue now is all at 64,000 feet. Well, I would reform the police. How? How? Will the city council support it? Do you need the city council to support it? Will the union support it? Is it enough for the community members to then restore trust? We should look at bail reform laws. Look at them and what? Change what? And why? But you have to get that specific.
Governor, have you
concerns about getting 12 to 17-year-olds vaccinated? Mayor de Blasio today said starting Friday they're going to put vaccines in city schools. They're starting with 4 in the Bronx. I'm wondering if that's something you think might become a statewide initiative. And also today, Congressman Lee Zeldin asked you to remove the mask mandate for kids in school. Are you likely to do that either by the end of this school year or in September?
Yeah, it is up to a school district if they want to do vaccines in school. I think it's smart. Many are doing it or are planning to do it. I think it's smart. Everything we can, right? Just do everything you can do. We're doing advertising to 12 to 17, the scholarships for 12 to 17. We're getting celebrities to participate in attracting 12 to 17. So just do everything. On the mask mandate in schools, we follow the CDC guidance, it's very rare that we differ with the CDC. I have raised before that the mask mandate outside for students seems a little extreme to me, and we're talking to the CDC about it.
Governor, have you used any money from your campaign, or do you plan on using any money from your campaign to pay for any of the legal expenses related to the investigations that you're facing right now?
The state, the way it works is the executive chamber has retained the council, and that is a state expense. It has been in every investigation. So that's where we are now.
There aren't any attorneys that you're paying yourself from your personal funds or through campaign money?
Not at this time.
2 questions. One, will you be watching the mayoral debate tonight, and are you leaning towards any one candidate? And number 2, can you talk about the cyber attack on the MTA?
The mayoral debate is at the same time as the Knicks game? That's a tough choice. This is a big game for the Knicks. I'll be switching channels, but I'll catch up with the mayoral debate. And what was your second question? I'm sorry?
My second question was about the cyber attack on the MTA. Can you discuss it and what's being done and the details?
Yeah, I don't want to give any more details than have been released at this point. I want to make sure that I don't do anything that would impede the investigation that the MTA is doing.
Are you leaning towards any one mayoral candidate, or do you like what certain candidates have said?
I'm not leaning towards anyone at this time. I'm open to it. I think this is a very important decision. You know, you need a mayor now. New York City really needs a good mayor. We need to see real leadership in the city, and we need to see competence in a mayor, and we need it desperately. You talk about all these issues, crime. That's about leadership. That's about restoring trust with members of the community in New York City. That's about being able to talk to people and have credibility in talking to the community. It's about being able to talk to the police and having credibility with them. This is a challenging time to be an executive. And New York City has real local issues. The macro is good. The energy is up. People are coming back. I feel good about our reimagination plan. I feel good about our reopening plan. But Fiorello LaGuardia, safety and a clean city. Crime is a problem. Number of homeless on the streets is a problem. We want tourists to come back. Yes, we have all sorts of great assets. The stories in the papers about crime can be a real impediment. And again, this has been going on for years, and there is no quick fix. So this mayor matters, and we need someone who both can communicate with the people of the city and bring the people of the city together and get things done. You need a level of competence that doesn't currently exist, and a level of credibility. So this is a big position to fill. Let's take one more.
In terms of the legislature, just to go back quickly, because we're talking about that reform that they're going to do for parole. There's the elder reform bill that they're probably conceivably could pass before the end of the year, and then there's another one about timely reform, fair and timely reform, which would basically look at an inmate's record in prison and then take into consideration the crimes they committed and how that impacted society. Those two bills, I'm just curious your position on those and whether you think those are things you'd sign.
First, they're apples and oranges, Zach. One, if you say, here's a template, anyone who fits this template is off parole, that doesn't allow you to look at the specifics and the specific risk that you're taking. A bill that says, look at the specifics of this person, what the crime was, what happened, what the defense was, what they've done since. I think decisions on the merits are preferable. But again, it depends on what winds up in a final bill, and you know as well as I, bills change until the last minute. All right, go Knicks, go Islanders, go Nets. Are you? I thought you, yes. Go ahead. I didn't even see you off to the side.
I'm here. Do you foresee that the federal government is going to establish a need for vaccination proof for foreigners coming to the U.S.? And if that's the case, would it clash with your plan of welcoming foreigners and maybe even do vaccination tourism so that people would come here to New York to get the vaccine that the federal government would be asking to already have?
Yeah, good question. New York, our arms are open. We welcome international tourists. Today you can land at an airport. There is no testing, there is no quarantine, there's no checking. You come to New York. You want to participate in a venue, then you have to follow the guidelines of that venue. You want to go to Radio City Music Hall, they're going to want to see your vaccination card, etc. But coming to the city, we have no regulations. I have not heard that the federal government is going to establish any regulations. In that regard, I've heard discussion about it, but I haven't heard anything definitive. If they did, then we would figure out what we need to do to make that process streamlined and facilitate it. Because we want and welcome tourism. We need it. We need it. It's a major engine for our economy. So anything we can do to facilitate it, we will. International. And then again, domestic travel, where I think you're going to see a lot more domestic travel, because in many ways, the COVID hangover, people are still concerned. They know the status of COVID in this country. What's the status of COVID in Europe and Germany and other countries? I'm not so sure. Might I go to another country and then have a problem getting back? So I think you're going to see a lot of domestic travel. And to them I say, New York has whatever you want to do. I've been in every state in the United States. Every state in the United States. I can't think of something that you would want to do that you can't do in New York. And then while you're here, you can do everything else. And it's safe, and it has great rules and regulations, so you can feel safe for your family. And we have the best restaurants. And don't travel anywhere outside of New York. I'll be disappointed. Thank you, guys.